Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adam, and today we're going to talk all about Flight Simulator 2000. Flight Simulator 2000 was the variation of Microsoft's flight simulation that started or was released in 1999, and it was the very first simulator program that I personally bought. So that's pretty much why I'm doing this video. I'm going to show you the manual just in a moment, because I still have that pilot's handbook manual with me. I've kept it ever since then, and I remember when it first came out, it was I was like, oh my life, I can go around flying planes. And it, for me, was a very excited time, but for the flight simulation, which had been going for like 6 years already, started like 1980, well, started in the late 70s really, but really took off in mid-80s. For them, it was a real leap in terms of visual fidelity. Also, it was the first time that the strain on the systems became known. For like frame rates were a problem, but even though you had that graphical leap, you still had problems. And it was also the very first simulator to host a few other things. Of course, Microsoft always stated that this new edition was highly realistic, graphically advanced, and the best-selling PC flight simulator game ever. And that's how Microsoft always saw flight simulation, that it was a game. I think you'll ask most people who do flight simulation don't see it as a game. They see it as serious, or sometimes they see it as personal virtual training. This personal version of Flight Simulator, the 2000 edition, made it so there was more than 20,000 airports. I think 17,000 airports were added to the list, so there was more than 20,000 airports worldwide. It also introduced two new aircraft, the Concorde and the Boeing 777, to its fleets of aircrafts that you could fly. And for the first time, like, even though we didn't have virtual cockpit yet, which didn't come till 2002's edition, the scenery, the system of the scenery was highly updated. And I remember buying it. It came like in a box, you know, and it had a manual as big as the box, and then just, you know, some CDs on it. Now there was the professional edition, and then there was the regular edition. Now the normal edition is what everyone else got with the professional, but with the professional you just only got like a couple of extra planes. You got like more aircraft to fly, and I think probably most people would have bought the professional edition to get all them aircrafts. That's exactly how my CDs came. They were in a 3 CD case that was in the box that came with the handbook. Mine didn't come like that, but I have seen some people who have had their 3 CDs presented like that. Now, like I said, there was a professional edition. It's not like the FSX, where there was a professional edition and a regular edition, which boasted performance and flight model upgrades. This one just literally had flight model upgrades. And of course, the cockpit itself was always a 2D overlay, and you would fly. And even though we look at these graphics now and they look very coarse, at the time this was groundbreaking stuff. This was like the best it had looked. It, like, back then was more realistic than previous versions, so they were boasting like the best graphics. Of course, we would look at this now and go, this looks like Minecraft simulation, you know. And the menu system is pretty much the same way as it was, just a little bit in a different style. That as we went into FSX and even Prepared, you'll recognize some of the same menu systems. Now, as well as the simulation, you also had short video snippets from Martha and John King, and these were pretty cool because these pair are a husband and wife team, and they are real world aviation instructors who have probably trained, you know, maybe 50% of all aviators in America. And they basically would instruct you in the classroom, right? And then you would get in your plane, and Rob Mercado would then take over and be your instructor in the plane. But they would do the classroom stuff, and they would go through a few of the basics, not only in terms of the software, but also the hardware. And as I said, they are real life aviator instructors. So, and the one thing I really enjoyed about this was that you also got like a certificate at the end of each course, and there were several courses to do. I'll show you the certificate in a moment. The flight planning software was introduced because all nav aids and all navigational beacons were all added into the simulator, so you could actually now start creating a flight plan. And the flight plan hasn't really changed that much in terms of what you get to use. You know, you put your departure airport in, you put your destination in, you put an alternate in, and then you set if you're going IFR or VFR, and then you choose which auto routing, and it will show you your route, and it will then, you know, show you your waypoints. And I just thought that that was like the best bit about it, was to plan out the flight like a real pilot. And this is the first time this is implemented, and it was like the first step of the immersion into flight simulation. The flight planner was like as fun planning as it was flying. Also, the airport interface, you know, was pretty much the same as we get now, even in Prepared. You know, you choose your airport, although they've kind of implemented it all into the same menu of the flight planning as well. Or at least it's accessed at the same menu. But you know, you pretty much you choose your area of the world, you choose your airport, and then you know where you want to start on that airport, runway, whatever, and you pretty much are good to go. There wasn't that many add-ons for Flight Simulator 2000. FS clouds you can introduce that would basically change the texture or the look of your clouds, and they were just more nicer. They definitely weren't photoreal or anything like that, but they did look better than the default ones that were in there. And that was pretty much it. There were no proper, at the time of it being released, extra third-party aircraft or anything else that you could do, but the aircraft selection that you did get was pretty good and still consistent with what you get for P3D. You know, you still can get pretty much the same aircraft. The Beach King Air doesn't come with prepared the 4th edition or anything like that, but you will get like that type of aircraft with it. I think it's the I can't remember the name of it, but you get a similar type of aircraft. But the Beach King Air would be one you'd have to then buy nowadays. But you know, the variation of aircrafts you got back then, you got an airliner, you got a propeller, you got a jet. You know, you really did get quite a few. Now, they were default aircraft, okay? They weren't anything grand, they weren't anything special, but they did give you a taste, a little bit of a taste, of what it would be like. And of course, you've got the Concorde. Now, I can't remember if the Concorde came with Flight Sim 2002 or 2004 or even FSX, but this was like the first time you could fly the Concorde, and it was just as fun to learn to fly as it looked. And of course, this was the last time that the Twin Towers ever featured in a Flight Simulator program. And this is, for me, the most exciting part of it, that when you did a course of like the pilot's license course or the commercial airline course, you would get an actual virtual certificate from the Microsoft then with your name on it. Not like through the post or anything, but one that you could print out for yourself. And so you could actually say, hey, yeah, Microsoft Simulator 2000, I've passed my private pilot's, you know, license. And that was just as fun for me. I personally haven't actually, in Microsoft 2000, passed any of the licenses. nor did I in 2004 when I bought that, or even FSX. I think I got about halfway through and then just thought, you know what, I just want to go play and I want to go fly and all this. But this has inspired me to revisit the Pilot's Handbook, which I'm going to show in a moment, because it's really interesting, as it has a full pilot's course, a full commercial airliners course, a full instrument rating course, and about 5 different courses that you can actually take and go by this Pilot's Handbook. That would then pass you on your test. Now, it's no substitute for real-world training. It says that many, many times. But if you want to give yourself like a virtual pilot's license and sort of, you know, ingest of it, this is basically going to be a great place to start. And if you haven't got access to the Pilot's Handbook from Flight Simulator 2000, it is pretty hard to get hold of. I know that there aren't copies floating about. This is exactly what this series that follows this video is going to be about. We're going to go through the Flight Simulator 2000 Pilot's Handbook, and I'm going to create lessons based off each course. So, without further ado, let's showcase the Pilot's Handbook itself. So here we go. Here is the Flight Simulator 2000 Pilot's Handbook, and to be honest, I have a lot of nostalgia for this item here. On the back, it's got a load of command keys for quick reference that you can use within the simulator, and a lot of these keys are the exact same bindings that are followed over through to Prepared and FSX. So if you use FSX, if you use Prepared, you will find that most of these still are valid for the items. Now, opening it up, you know, it's pretty beat up, you know, to be honest. It is pretty old. I did get this back in 2000, so this is a bit of an oldie. It's got a section in it called Before You Fly, okay? And this is basically going to talk about all your computer, how you start a flight, what's the best sort of recommended settings for your simulator, your computer. Pages are falling out here. It sort of breaks down the book as well for you. And then, of course, you get into the next chapter exploring the features. So, like I said, there's actually quite cool things about this book, which has inspired me to create the forthcoming series. Mainly because you get that private pilot's license when you complete a course. Obviously, you need the Flight Simulators 2000 software in order to do that. Now, I'm going to link the images below where you can actually download each of the certificates. So if you follow the course on the final video, I'll put a link in and you'll be able to head over and download that image so you can put your own name on your own license. Okay? Another cool feature of this book is that I'm going to be careful because it's really falling apart, but on this book here, it gives you check out cool sceneries. So it gives you locations, right, that you can head to that are pre-marked because the scenery in Flight Simulator 2000 is pretty cool. They're basically showing off their favorite or their best areas of the simulator. But these are real coordinates in real life. So you could use your current simulator to go and check out these coordinates. And that's also inspired me to do a series of like what would happen. For instance, one of the sceneries here is the Hoover Dam. Now, what would happen if you were flying up to the Hoover Dam and you go through it? Like, instead of pulling up to go over and see the lake, what would happen if you just go through it? So that's another series on its way. Basically what would happen in flight simulation if you did this, if you did that. The whole book is really interesting, and it really does break down getting certified in the real world, which licenses you need, you know, which certificates you have to pass, and it lists every single lesson for each of the certificates. As you can see, I tried some of these, but that for the private pilot's certificate there, these are all the lessons that are required in order to pass that certificate. And then of course you'll get your certificate at the end, and then you go on to the instrument rating one, and then these are a list of all the courses and all the lessons that need to take place before you can then go and pass that. It also has commercial pilot certificate, and it also has airline transport pilot certificate, which are two different things, and that's pretty much it. There's like them 4 lessons, them 4 sessions, okay? That's basically what we're going to do in the series. So every lesson is going to be a video based on the instructions done by what Rod Mercado do in the Learning to Fly section of this particular book. So for instance, when we open up, he's talking about Tutorial 1, Straight and Level Flights. So in order to pass your first lesson, you must demonstrate straight and level flight. So what we'll do is I'll go up in a plane, we'll do straight and level flight, and I'll basically read it word for word from this book, like I'm Rod Mercado. I'm not going to do an accent though, but basically like I'm Rod, I'll be instructing the person who's watching the video. So basically you could have the video playing and through the voice do the instructions, and then kind of use it as your own pilot's course. You'll have to rate yourself, but at the end of it, you're going to get a certificate to say, I've passed my virtual private pilot's license. And that's basically what we're going to do in future series. But that's what this book is. I mean, it is pretty awesome as a book. It's a pilot's, well, it truly is a pilot's handbook, to be honest. But it's something I've enjoyed over the years, going back to as a reference material, but it's going to become a YouTube series. Now, also in the future, there's Flight Simulation 2004's book. I've still got that. Basically, kind of goes through very similar, but not in a lesson format. It's just more like step by step. And then, of course, you've got the FSX version of it all, which, look at the size of that thing. I mean, this goes in a lot more detail on everything, plus also your system. So maybe in the future we'll go get through them 2 books as well. But look out for the next video in this series. That basically Flight Simulator 2000. Look out for the next video where you'll get to your private pilot's license, lesson 1. Check it out.